This is a continuation of the encounter with one of the friendly guys I met from Regionals and Chronos Protocol. Last game I was playing Ian Sterling against his ambient deck. Now we switch sides. I'm playing my Tag of Frag Nisei Division deck against his Kate Artman deck. Alright, so we both kind of know each other's decks, I think. He has been watching my videos and he explained to me how his Artman deck works. So first off, I Celebrity Gift, and because there are no agendas, I place my ice on R&D. It's a Kumainu. He immediately gets a Deus Ex out, and that's good for him. No more troubles with Kumainu. I withdraw into another Kumainu, and I decide to install it on HQ. I think that will be a very nasty surprise. He wouldn't see two Kumainus coming. And if that catches him off guard, the second one will deal massive damage after the first eats through his Deus Ex. So he brings out his SMC, while I gain loads and loads of credits. I love it. Neo Katana goes on the remote. In case he runs some sort of Sentry Breaker, turns out, obviously he's running an Artman deck, I should have known this, but I just put the Katana on the remote because it could come in handy. I don't know, it could come in handy. Alright, he runs through Archives to load his Data Sucker with one Data Sucker token, which is enough to parasite the Kumainu down. Very smart play there. He definitely knew that was a Kumainu coming, and he prepared himself well for it. So he runs Nisei and trashes it because he's good at side games. And yeah, Psyduck. Psyduck. He's such a Psyduck. Alright, so my poor Caprice gets trashed, and he also gets to access a card. I'm very worried because I haven't seen any agendas, so R&D must be pretty flooded with them. I was actually very happy that he didn't draw any. So he saw my Susano no Mikoto. I wanted to play some mind games with him, so I installed an ice immediately on R&D, making him think that that's the Susano, when in fact it's a Snowflake. Hopefully that will deter him from running R&D. Alright, I draw into a Yagura that goes on R&D as well, because it's Yagura. And I'm very tempted to install the Edge of World into the remote, but I think that would be too obvious a trap, so I decided to drop it, draw a card instead, and now I'm starting to see my agendas. I can't really score them yet, but I do have a Susano no Mikoto, and that will come into play very soon. Hedge Fund, awesome. Alright. The Hedge Fund single-handedly enabled my play. Now I can install Susano and the Philotic. So now I'm really threatening a score here. It cost me 9 to rest the Susano and 3 more to score the Philotic, so I'm in good shape. He runs HQ. There's a medical breakthrough there. I would rather him score it. It's a 4-2. I don't feel like scoring it. I'm actually more afraid of him hitting my Edge of World because I want to keep the Edge of World to ensure that, to hopefully impale him with brain damage. So he runs into R&D, and because all the ice there are cheap, I can rest both of them, the Snowflake and the Yagura, and still have enough credits to rest both Caprice. To rest Susano and score Philotic the next turn. So I'm completely fine there. Yes, he tried to install Parasite to rid of my Yagura, but quickly realized that would take him over his memory limit, so he decided to bring out his Artman instead. Meanwhile, I'm looking very good. Okay, I don't really want to score Philotic this early, but because it won't do any net damage, but 3-2 is a 3-2. You've got to score it when the time comes, and yep, I rather score it as I rather get the 2 agenda points and start threatening agenda point victory than to leave it in my hand where he could possibly steal it. Alright, he hit the snare, and of course I pay for it. At least force his Deus Ex out, but that was a horrible decision because he then runs on my remote, and I realize that to keep him out, I need to rest the Susano. Oh, but first he runs through HQ, my bad, sorry. Spoiler alert, he runs on my remote on the last click. Alright, so he trashes my Edge of World, I'm very sad, and now I'm forced to rest the Susano, otherwise he will score the Philotic. Oh dear, oh dear. That leaves me with 1 credit to... What? You can't score a Philotic with only 1 credit. I don't have shipment from Sensen. So even though I keep him out this turn, um, it's looking quite bad because um, yes, as you can see, he has 5 data sucker tokens and an Atman 0. So there's nothing much I can do here except to take credits. In fact, Susano no Mikoto didn't really help here because it redirected him to archives, which actually allowed him to gain another data sucker token. So what he does now is to run HQ, see my close accounts, run HQ again, and he gets 7 data sucker tokens on that data sucker and scores the medical breakthrough. I'm fine with him scoring that, but that means he now can score my Philotic. And he parasites down my Susano. So 9 credits just vanished just like that. That was so painful. The only thing I could do was to res that Neuro Katana and deal 3 net damage to him, hopefully slow him down. But there goes my Philotic. So that was a complete game changer, completely turning the tides of the game. I was looking on track to be 2 agenda points ahead, but now look at what happened. All from one mistake, triggering the snare. I should not have triggered that snare. Man, that is... yeah, it's quite painful thinking about it because the game would have turned out very differently had I not triggered that snare. Alright, so I see a Jackson, a little bit of relief. I try to draw into cards, but no sign of economy, so I think I click for credits after that. Yep, to get up to 4 credits. Now it's very dangerous because if he hits a future perfect and wins the side game, he wins the entire game. I'm very lucky here. I draw into my 2nd celebrity gift. So this leaves me with a good number of credits to play around with. And the best thing is that I can finally set up a scoring remote with a toll booth to replace the Susano no Mikoto that was parasited down earlier. And he's reset to 1 data sucker token, so that is something I need to leverage on. I draw my 3rd celebrity gift, so it really is a gift. Using both in succession, I don't reveal much information, but I get a whole bucket load of credits to play around with. So I get good. So that was very, very lucky for me. So since he's taking advantage of the downtime with me spending so many clicks to gain money, that he's now just continue to build up his rig and build up his credit stack. Now with 18 credits and a toolbox, that looks very formidable. I'm not comfortable with scoring a toll booth yet. I need to get a cerebral cast close accounts combo off in order to begin scoring. Meanwhile, I keep R&D safe because I know that R&D will be his point of attack. That is a must to defend against indexing because he can easily pull out a win if I'm not careful. Alright, he brings out the snowball, very interesting choice of fractor. And let's see him use the snowball get through the Eli. Nope, he jacks out. Even though he has more than enough credits to go through. That's an interesting choice. I'm not sure why he did that. Alright, so he continues power drawing. That was not a successful run. Actually, I do wish that he went all the way through with the run because now, without a successful run, I still cannot play out my cerebral cast. So I continue drawing with Jackson Howard. Actually, I'm not sure why I'm drawing. It won't really help me. I guess finding more a 3-pointer in the form of medical breakthrough. That would be really nice. And also finding a Caprice, which I fetch with my archive memories. Now I can start scoring in that remote without the cerebral cast because Caprice in conjunction with Tollbooth will tax him to oblivion. I am running a bit low on credits. I need to balance my credit situation with allowing him to run to snowball out of control. The more time I spend gaining credits, the more he will snowball out of control with Snowball and his suite of Atman. So that's not a good thing at all. I continue icing out R&D because right now R&D is porous. He has the Atman 0 and Snowball out. I need to keep him out. Or at least put an unrest piece of ice there so that he doesn't know what's coming in. Alright, he installs a clone chip, and I show the snowball first. Snowflake, which he can snowball through, interestingly enough. Here he decided to run the side game even though he had snowball. This was his mistake because he forgot that snowflake was actually a barrier. Not, I don't know what he thought it was, but yeah, he could have gotten through. So after he realized that, he felt rather silly about it. But it still does cost him quite a lot to get through with snowball, to the point that running through with the side game might actually make more sense. Although that is a waste of clicks as well, so I don't know. He then gets some economy going, and now it's over to me. I'm still not comfortable with scoring anything out yet. I don't have a 3-pointer. The future perfect costs too much to pump out. Caprice and whole move cost 10 to rest. So I won't have enough credits to secure the server. Alright, a big mistake here. I shouldn't have played Inazuma. I guess I wanted to play it so that I didn't have to waste any cards from my hand. I would have trashed one of these cards if I didn't play Inazuma, but I should have gained credits instead. Anyway, he runs through and legworks my HQ. I do not rest the innermost Komaino because I know he can parasite it down. So there's not much point here in wasting 5 credits of mine and a piece of ice. At this juncture, he chooses to summon the Deus Ex just right before he accesses, which is a very smart play. He knew that snare was coming up somehow or another, and I really did have a snare in hand, and the chances of him hitting it were very, very high. So thankfully for him, he got his Deus Ex out, otherwise he would have been impaled on the spot. Alright, funny enough, he legworked in, saw 3 cards, and all 3 cards that he saw were my event cards, my operations. He didn't hit the future perfect, which I'm okay with. I mean, if he hits it, it's still a side game that he has to play, and he didn't hit the snare. It's actually a win-win for me because spending 4 credits to trigger snare is rather expensive, and it did cost me an agenda earlier on in this game. So yeah. Alright, I play the side game with Cerebral Cast now and made a successful run. The first game failed, the second game failed. Oh my gosh. Oh. 2 Cerebral Casts. He beat them both. The chances of that, 1 in 9. If I got either of them off, he would be reset to 0.0, and the next turn after that I could start scoring my future perfect. But no, he had to win both side games. I mean, I suppose he would take the brain damage instead, but that just leaves him more vulnerable to edge of world. Alright, so he tries to get into R&D, and now I really deter him with 2 Elis on R&D. It's gonna cost him a hell of a lot to break. Actually, Snowball helps a lot because with 3 barriers stacked in the same server, Snowball actually, its strength does carry through. So that's great for him. So now I actually start scoring my agenda. It actually costs less. I believe it costs less for him to break through R&D with Snowball than with a Kuroda. A very rare situation. Alright, so I get a Jackson going, and I see a couple of interesting cards, and I decide to take credits because, I really need at least 10 credits to start to rest Caprice and Toe Move. Executive Retreat is not really a card I want to see, so it goes in the trash. Thankfully, he's not running Archives. Although against Jinteki, you definitely question running in Archives. Now he's building up even more with more prepaid voice packs, so close accounts will do less and less work because it's much easier for him to recover from close accounts with so many prepaid voice packs. I draw into yet another future perfect. It's getting quite sickening, so well, I'm just digging for more money and perhaps more ice with stopping power. And the most important thing I'm digging for is one of my 2 remaining medical breakthroughs. I need to score the first one to get it to score a 3-2 out, and then the third one I draw would be a 2-2, which I can score from hand. That would be huge. That would catapult me to 4 points, and I would just need to score 5-3 agenda to win the game. Alright, so yep, I finally decide it's time to score. It's now or never. So in goes my future perfect after reshuffling with Jackson Howard. Not gonna make the silly mistake again of not reshuffling cards from archives with Jackson Howard. So he does have a lot of credits, but I'm confident that if I can win enough side games, I can force him into a very bad position, which might allow me to score even more agendas later. Or set me up for a good Edge of World, which will now be worth 3 drain damage. Landing that would be huge. So he runs on the third click. I res the toll booth, and he has to pay 3 credits. He decides to jack out of the server because, yes, if he breaks through the toll booth with data sucker tokens, he doesn't have enough to fuel his data sucker for Nero Katana. His only choice would be to break Nero Katana with Deus Ex, which could be risky, although he should have taken the risk, I suppose, because he had clone cheat to fetch the Deus Ex back. Anyway, I decided to cerebral cast him again, instead of scoring the agenda, because if I score the agenda, I would be left in a terrible economic position, and I had just drawn a hedge fund. So I played the side game and I failed. My third cerebral cast failed. It's a huge, huge shame. So I'm basically passing my my future perfect off as a trap, a failed Junebug, a failed aggressive secretary of sorts. So I don't think he will run it again the next turn. So I decided the risk was worth it, and I would score my hedge fund. Get a hedge fund going and cerebral cast instead. But anyway, he chooses to ignore remote and goes for R&D instead with a fatal indexing. He runs again to retrieve what I assume is the agenda that is his prize for indexing. And well, I can he won't win yet unless it's a future perfect that he accesses and he wins the side game. So I'm still not that worried, but it does put on match point. Okay, it's a medical breakthrough. So the final medical breakthrough in my deck will be is a 2-2, which is good for me. But I cannot afford to continue on like this. So Caprice Nisei goes into R&D. I need to stem the bleeding. He continues drop. Notice at this point I still haven't scored my future perfect that's lying in my reward. It's quite clear that he thinks it's a trap, a failed trap. So I'm content to leave it as it is, and all the better because I can leave the Caprice lying in R&D. Remember that Caprice is unique, so if I use the one on R&D, I cannot use the one on my remote unless I trash the one already on R&D. So he fails the side game, thankfully, and even if he won the side game, he still had to play another side game to steal the future perfect. So, yeah. I decided that at this point it was worth scoring my future perfect so I could get the next one in. Caprice is a very good way to secure your remote or central server, and this is what using Caprice on R&D helps me do. Now, he goes for HQ because he knows that there are 2 future perfects in my hand, and there's no Caprice Nisei on HQ, so good for him. And I finally rest my Komainu because he's now low on credits. I will force him to use his clone sheet to get a parasite, but then he realized that due to using Levi AR Lab Access, he has no more parasite, so he's forced to use his DSX, and he accesses the future perfect and wins the side game. I wanted to continue playing on. Had he lost that side game, it would have been so hard to come back because he used up his DSX to get through my Komainu. He would have to spend a clone chip every time he wanted to run my HQ. And DSX isn't cheap. It costs 3 credits to pop once. So, yep. But I ran out of luck there. And yeah, he won a disproportionate amount of side games, which really contributed to my loss. Had he lost even one of the cerebral cast games, things could have been slightly different. I mean, he would definitely take the brain damage over the tag, but still, yeah, I was hoping that my side games would be more successful. And yeah, he did a very good job of attacking the right servers, attacking R&D instead of going for my remote, attacking HQ when both my remote and R&D had caprices on it, and so on. Yeah, being able to exploit the weakness of your enemy is a very important skill in Netrunner, and he definitely demonstrated that this game. As for me, I think my deck's a bit too reliant on getting a close accounts off. If the close accounts doesn't hit, or if the enemy takes a brain damage, what will I do? So that is something to think about for me as well. It's also very reliant on getting the medical breakthroughs through. If I drew more medical breakthroughs that game, it could have turned out differently. Oh well. Still a very interesting game, and thanks for watching, I guess. Happy net run.